What is up, BookTube? It's Monty, and I'm still trying to figure out the best way to film in front of my shelves. I did some cleaning today and some reorganization, and I feel like this is going to be the new permanent situation, which I wish I would have thought through before I did the rearranging. But whatever, it is what it is. It's nice and quiet, so I thought that I would film my review for Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare. This is the second book in the Dark Artifices trilogy. And like I alluded to in my December wrap-up on Monday, if you haven't already watched that, I'll leave a link up in the cards. In the cards, you will also find my discussion of Lady Midnight, in case you're curious about what I thought. I think that this book had a lot it needed to do, and I think that... One second. I think that Lord of Shadows had a lot that it needed to do in terms of bridging the murder mystery plot from Lady Midnight, and in terms of setting up the overarching situation for the rest of the trilogy. I think that's partially why it's so long, but I think that we also spend a lot of time in Lord of Shadows doing things that I was not appreciative of. Just to, I guess, summarize the plot without getting into spoilers or specifics. Lord of Shadows follows the Blackthorns and Emma and Christina following the events of Lady Midnight. The fallout of that, pretty much, and that's really all I can say without spoiling things. Without spoiling the book, in case you haven't read it, I did appreciate the fairy plot line in this. Again, like I said in my December wrap-up, I think that Cassandra Clare, her work with the Fae, and particularly in this book, was far more interesting than anything that I've seen from Holly Black. That was the thing that I appreciated the most, because we spent a startling amount of time with the Fae in this follow-up, which I wasn't expecting, but it was, like I said, because I enjoyed it so much, I was happy to see it. And that's really all I can say without spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled for Lord of Shadows, thanks for watching. I'm happy we're here, but there's nothing I can say about this book without spoiling it. So, spoilers. I think we're going to ease in here. I think that what continues to bother me, particularly about, like, I'm trying to divorce what I want to talk about because I'm in the middle of Queen of Air and Darkness right now. I'm at page, 300. So I don't want to, I don't want to introduce things that I think are more focused in that discussion than here. But I think what really bothered me about Lord of Shadows was, once again, we spent the bulk of this book, that is 700 pages, with all of our, cohort out. I guess I shouldn't call them the cohort because that's a thing in the book. But all of our Blackthorns and Christina and Emma out here flaunting the clave to do things that they shouldn't be doing, breaking the rules, to go and get Kieran back. And they have, barely raised a pinky to get Helen. And I'm just like, what? And I think what really bothered me was at the end of Lady Midnight, when Mark should have been banished to Wrangle Island, in my opinion. And Mark is my favorite character. Single-handedly, Mark Blackthorn is the only character I care about in the Dark Artifices, point blank, period, end of sentence. But the entire plot of Lord of Shadows revolves around Kieran coming back. The entire plot. Everything that happens in this is, I don't want to say dependent on him coming back, and I don't want to say that if they hadn't gone to get him, the book wouldn't exist. But to a certain extent, a lot of what the characters do is motivated to get him back. And then once he is back, they need him to progress what they want to progress. And I was like, so you are literally risking the clave and banishment for Kieran, but when Helen has been exiled to Wrangle Island, it's no big deal. It's not that I don't like Kieran, but I do have a really hard time. Lord of Shadows also introduced the sort of inklings at a polyamorous relationship between Kieran and Christina and Mark. And in theory, I'm all for it. In theory. Theory being the operative word here. Because I still think that it's just not for me. But I personally can't get over what Kieran did. So the fact that they were going to go risk everything to save him bothered me. This book also really sets up what I think is the overarching plot through line of the series. And that is everything to do with the parabatai bond. And how the parabatai bond isn't what we all thought it was. And I think that having the parabatai bond be the driving force for the trilogy it doesn't work for me. And this one, again, we get scenes where it's like Julian and Emma are like, oh my goodness, the parabatai bond, we're cursed, we can't be in love together, we need to like destroy the bond. And what bothers me about this is this is our third series set in this world, right? So between between Alec and Jace, when, you know, Alec had his little crush on Jace, the Infernal Devices, I never really shipped that polyamorous relationship that people wanted, but people were shipping Jim and Will. Okay, fine. But suddenly, our white heterosexuals want to be in love together, and so we're just gonna... What? We're gonna get rid of the parabatai bond for the white hets? Why? Like, literally why? In a series where we've seen same-sex attraction for parabatai that they had to deal with and get over and move on from each other. Why? But also, I think what was really strange about Lord of Shadows... No, that happened in Queen of Fire and Darkness, so I can't touch on it there. But I think what really bothers me about the parabatai bond is it literally well, I guess I can talk about this. In Queen of Air and Darkness, it's revealed that Robert, the Inquisitor, knows that there's like a reasoning for why parabatai shouldn't be together, right? So as the Inquisitor, he knows that there's like a reason why that law exists. It's not just for the shit of it. He doesn't know exactly why, but he has an understanding. It's not just for the fuck of it. So what then I think is stupid about this world is if the leaders in charge know that something, like there's a reasoning behind it, why the fuck are we out here letting 10-year-olds become parabatai? And that's what happened here. Like, why are, you are letting children become parabatai, but then we have scenes where, like, Tavi, I guess Tavi's, like, 7. But, like, Drew is out here like a full-on 13-year-old. She could get a parabatai. She could be bonded for life with somebody, but they're always calling her a child. And so it's like, your elements of your world no longer make sense, Cassandra Clare. If, like, you want to blow this up for the Whiteheads, but you can have children become bonded permanently with somebody else, or face eternal damnation and, like, mental instability for falling in love. Like, I'm sorry, it's stupid. It's a stupid through line, and I really, like, why? Why does it exist? I'm sure that in Queen of Fire and Darkness I'm gonna get some answers, but what really annoyed me all throughout Lord of Shadows was, like, you let them do this as children. Like, why are we out here acting like this is some great curse when you let them do this as children? Like, the moment that was introduced, the whole plotline lost me. And I think that's what really bothered me about it being the through line. Now, I think that Lord of Shadows also sets up Annabelle Blackthorne, over here on the cover of Queen of Air and Darkness, as the kind of slot-in villain. I think it also tries to set up the Unseelie King, trying to unite the fairy courts or whatever, as like a Sebastian Valentine, the Magister stand-in. I don't think either one of those characters work. I think that Annabelle Blackthorne is literally, she should have stayed dead. When she was half awake at the end of Lady Midnight, it was dumb. When she came back in this one and eviscerated Malcolm Fade, I was like, this is dumb. I think that everything to do with Annabelle Blackthorne has been dumb from the beginning, and to set her up as some kind of low-level antagonist for this series, I think is stupid. I just think it's stupid. I'm sorry, I don't care about her at all. I didn't care about her all here. I didn't care about them trying to talk to her, trying to reason with her, trying to do whatever she was doing. It was dumb, it was stupid, it was unnecessary, it brought nothing to my life. As for Zara Dearborn and the rest of the cohort, I also think they're stupid. I think that Cassandra Clare in the Dark Artifices has really heavily leaned in on this Nephilim versus Downworlder situation that I don't want to get into too deep because it's really pissing me off in Queen of Air and Darkness, so I don't want to rant about it here and then rant about it again in that review. But I think that we get the seeds of that here, and there's always been seeds of it throughout the rest of her books. It's always been a running thing. You know, the Nephilim don't always trust the Downworlders. In the original trilogy, that was a thing. There's always been people who are prejudiced against them. But it doesn't work for me when the Nephilim exist in every ethnicity on the planet, you would think that some of these people would... I mean, I guess the Nephilim also exist in this weird situation where they claim to be isolated from the mundanes, but a large portion of them live amongst the mundanes, and they have weaponry at mundane houses of worship. So it's like there's some kind of disconnect, you know what I mean? So this idea that none of the minority shadow hunters would have any kind of understanding about how they're treating the downworlders, and they wouldn't have any kind of historical lens to be like, we shouldn't be doing this, I think is preposterous, and I think that it's lazy writing, and I think that Cassandra Clare should really be ashamed of herself, because it doesn't bring anything to the table. I think that by far and away, her magical downworlder oppression as a stand-in for, actual marginalizations is so weird, especially... And then because of that, it makes me feel that the actual marginalized groups that she has introduced to her story are really just there to be there. I think it really devalues characters like Magnus Bane and Cristina Rosales and Rafael Santiago. I think that's everybody. Maya, I guess. Maya is just like... No one cares about Maya anymore. She's not fucking Simon. She's not relevant to the plot line. But it's like, none of those characters, I feel important when you are heavily focused on, the Nephilim hate the downworlders. They want to do all these terrible things to the downworlders. Downworlders are vermin. Like, you lost me. You lost me. I'm sorry, Cassandra. It's been a thing that's bothered me the entire time that I've read it, but I think that it's really coming to a head here in The Dark Artifices because it's so heavily important to the events of this series, and seeds were really planted here in Lord of Shadows. I guess we can talk about the end of the book. I guess we can talk about how Cassandra Clare thought it was fitting to kill Livy Blackthorn. Here's my thing about the Blackthorns. I don't really care about any of them. I think that just about all of them are unnecessary characters, and none of them really bring me any kind of joy. But killing Livy just felt so cheap to me. Like, in a series where there aren't that many character deaths, a character death really does, it makes you, it stands out, because so many, and I think that the last time we had a point of view character die was when... So, I mean, like, technically, I think Raphael died in City of Heavenly Fire. He was never really a point of view character. Jessamine Lovelace died. But the only time we had, like, a point of view character die was when Jem died in the Infernal Devices, and Will was like, oh no, and then he immediately went to fuck. He was fucking Tessa. But it turned out that Jem wasn't even dead. So... Livy is like the only point of view character. I don't even know if Livy was ever actually a point of view character. She was just with Ty and Kit a lot of the time. Either way, she was one of the very few protagonists adjacent that we've had die we were meant to feel sorry for. And it was just like, you killed a kid, and I didn't really think that it added anything to the story except to further to further Annabelle as a villain. But it's like, that was... When it happened, I didn't even realize that, one, that it happened, but two, that it was, like, intentional. Like, it was... It was stupid. Like, I'm sorry. It was a dumb death, and I think that it was meant to upset you and to, like, have a epic cliffhanger that you were meant to sit on for a year. I mean, I'm reading them well after the fact that they were published, so I didn't have that cliffhangery, oh my goodness, what's happening next? Because I could immediately pick up the next one. But I thought that was a really cheap ending, and I don't think it was earned, because I don't think that Annabelle as the villain is earned, because as I've said, I don't think Annabelle is the through line. I think the Parabatai Bond, the Parabatai Curse, that whole storyline, while I think is bullshit, is the more compelling one, and I think the one that Cassandra Clare actually cares about, because all of these books are so slow, because there isn't really an external threat, really. I mean, there is one, she's building one, but it doesn't ever feel like the focus, much like Emma and Julian's romance is the core, even though you have literally everyone else around them is out here fucking people too. It's like, theirs is still the core. So I don't think that having her kill a child made me feel any other kind of way toward her. And I don't think it was a good use of time. And I think that it really only happened because there's too many Blackthorns. Like, there's too many of them. And if you were ever going to bring Helen back, then there would really be too many, because not only would you have Helen, you would have Aileen, who was also self-exiled. It was revealed in this one. I mean, it might have been revealed in Lady Midnight, and I wasn't paying attention, because I thought that Aileen was just visiting. But in Lord of Shadows, we get conclusive evidence, I think it was Lord of Shadows, where it's like, no, Aileen also self-exiled herself to Wrangel Island to be with her wife, which I think is nice. But it's like, so not only is Helen there, but the other lesbian we have, I don't even know if she's a lesbian, she could be bisexual. However, the other Woman Love Woman character is out there, also exiled on Wrangel Island. Also, I mean, I guess that explains why Aileen never showed up to do anything, because whatever. And I think that even though Lord of Shadows did successfully pull in that plot line and build a plot line for Queen of Air and Darkness, I think that it didn't really get to tell a story in and of itself. I don't think that it very much is a bridge book, and it's a bridge book in the worst sense because this book is so long. Look, like, it's massive, and it was entirely too long. And it's not that I blame it, but I think that this just needed more work. I think that Lady Midnight should have had a different plot. Lord of Shadows should have been able to have a plot. And I can't even tell you about Queen of Air and Darkness yet, because I haven't read it. I haven't finished it. But I do think that Lady Midnight really shot the Dark Artifices in the foot by doing what it did, because I think that it really, it handicapped. It fucked over Lord of Shadows trying to build on that. So overall, like I said, I didn't really enjoy this one. It's probably my least favorite Shadowhunter novel, which I never thought I would say, because I did not like the Infernal Devices nearly as much as everyone said that. I probably would. I think overall, The Dark Artifices is a better story, maybe. I don't know. I haven't finished it yet. It has Mark, though. And Mark, I don't know. The Infernal Devices had Jessamy. They're on, like, the same level. So I'll see you guys on Friday with a Friday Reads video. Thanks for watching this one. If you liked what you saw here, you can go ahead and click that like while you're down there. Go ahead and subscribe if you want to see more. And as always, please leave a comment. I'll see you guys again on Friday with another video. But until then, and until next time,